One of the interesting things about building wealth is that when people realize that you have money, they're going to want to take their hands, put it in your pocket, and take some of it for themselves. And this is where now, as you're building your wealth, I also want you to think about how you can protect your wealth because, well, this is a whole art in and of itself. So when it comes to you not protecting yourself, there's a couple things that you want to do. You want to think about the legal side and you want to think about the financial side. On the legal side, well, some countries, such as the United States, are very litigious, which means people will try to sue you, especially if you are a real estate investor, especially if you are an entrepreneur. There's a saying in America, which is if you haven't been sued yet, you haven't been in business long enough. In fact, my real estate company got sued by one of my tenants because, well, the tenant claimed that the bathtub was too slippery when the water was on. True story. The bathtub had a little chip about the size of a quarter on the bottom. The tenants notified us. We sent our contractor out there to go take care of it. He said, yeah, it's a little tiny chip. I'll take care of it. I also think we should add a handicap pole because your tenants are a little bit older. We said, okay. And the contractor went back to do the work. And the tenant said, you know what? How about you not do the work today because my husband, the other tenant, slipped and fell at a friend's barbecue. So my contractor said, okay, no big deal. We'll come back again. We tried to schedule the work to repair the bathtub and add in the handicap pole a few times, but the tenant kept refusing us, at which point the property manager said, how about you just let us know when you want us to do the work and then we'll come back and do it. Tenant said, okay. Well, 2 years go by and we didn't hear anything from the tenant. And I got a letter saying that I'm being sued or that my real estate company is being sued. And that was a little strange because now I had completely forgotten that all this happened and I was a little confused. Now, I talked to my property management company. We pulled up the database and all the records that we had, and we saw, oh, okay, we did have this issue of a little chip in the bathtub, which wouldn't make the bathtub any more slippery, but we also tried to do the work, and they also told us that the tenant slipped and fell at a friend's barbecue. Well, in any case, when you get sued, you have to defend it, even if you didn't do anything wrong. But this is where you want to have the first line of defense, which is insurance, which we had. And so my insurance company had to pay for an attorney, probably paid $250 to $400 an hour for this attorney now to defend this case and get this case sorted out. And unfortunately, even though it might seem like an obvious answer, you have to go through the processes. This is how the litigious and legal process works. And I'm telling you this as an attorney who's not your attorney. So we go through the process and we go through the due diligence, we go through the research. And during that process, we saw that, well, through the medical records, this tenant slipped and fell at a friend's barbecue. And not just that, we were not negligent. We were going above and beyond trying to take care of the tenants. And so some people will try to just take money because sometimes, well, that's how people make money. So this is where you want to protect yourself. And number one, this means having good insurance. And even beyond that, if we take a step back, this is where having good business practices are really important to protect you because, well, a good business practice is going to help you document things, but also avoid lawsuits because you're just doing business ethically. But even if you try to do things ethically, unfortunately, sometimes you might still get sued. And if you're in America, if you haven't been sued yet, you haven't been in business long enough. So this is where you want to have insurance. Then beyond that, you also want to have legal shields. Like in the United States, there are things like LLCs or S corporations. Now, the type of entity that you want is going to depend on what type of business you have, which is why you want to make sure you talk to a good attorney in your area. But the whole purpose of something like an LLC is to create an entity, a new person almost, that owns the asset that you're creating. So if you're going out and building a business, instead of me, Jasprit Singh, running the business, it's the entity that owns the business. I, Jasprit Singh, just own the business. Like I don't own any rental properties. My LLCs own rental properties and I own the LLCs. So Jasprit Singh owns the LLCs that own the properties. And the reason why now is because let's play out the scenario. Let's assume that a tenant slips and falls and they sue. And they sue for a lot of money and then insurance for whatever reason won't cover it. Well, then the judge might say, okay, this tenant is entitled to $10 million of damages. Well, if that property is owned by an LLC, the maximum that the tenant can take is whatever is inside of the LLC. So if there's only one property inside of the LLC and that property is worth $200,000, they might have won $10 million, but they just take the entire LLC, which is in this case worth only $200,000. Now, in order for this LLC protection to actually protect you, there's a number of different rules you have to follow in the United States, such as making sure that you're not commingling the funds. You're treating the LLC like a real business. And what that means is you take the money that this business is making, the rental income, the expenses, your business income, whatever it might be, and you're only using this bank account for business purposes. Like you're not buying your personal groceries with this business bank account. Because if you do that, then the argument will be made that you're not treating this like a real business and you shouldn't get that entity protection, that legal protection. So this is where, again, a good attorney is so important to protect you legally because, well, crazy things will happen. And people, when they realize that you have money, or if they think you have money, because when I got sued with that rental property issue, I was 20 years old. So they thought that I had money, but I really didn't. I was just getting started as an investor. And this is where, again, having a good attorney, those good team members on your side is so important to help protect you legally, but also financially. The next thing that you need to do to protect yourself financially is get a good accountant, especially if you're building your own business, especially if you're investing in real estate. It is so crucial to have a good tax planner and a good tax advisor on your side. And I can tell you this from experience because, well, I've had bad tax advisors and I've had good tax advisors. And a bad tax advisor might be cheap in their monthly rate, but they're going to be very expensive in the overage that you're going to pay in taxes. And so a good tax advisor, what they're going to do is not just file your taxes. If all your accountant is doing is filing your taxes, you were leaving a lot of money on the table. What a good tax advisor will do is they're going to meet with you regularly, whether it's monthly, whether it's quarterly, they're going to meet with you and they're going to show you your financials. They're going to show you your books. Here's how much money you made. Here's what your expenses look like. Here's your profit. Here's your taxable income. And then, this is the key. Once they show you your taxable income, they need to give you tax planning and tax strategizing ideas and advice. You have $10,000 worth of taxable income. Here's 1, 2, 3 things that you can do to potentially lower your taxable income. And the things that you can do are going to vary country to country, and they're going to vary year to year. This is why you need a good tax advisor because the tax laws are always changing. And this is why I keep saying, if all your advisor is doing is filing your taxes, you are leaving a lot of money on the table. And I learned this the hard way. Now, I have a good tax advisor who I'm paying way more month over month, but we're meeting regularly to talk exactly about this, about what we can do to strategize to lower the tax liability legally. Because guess what? The tax code is a rule book. It's a game. And the people that win on the tax side are the people that understand the rule book. In the beginning of this quest, we talked about the 3 different buckets of income. I have earned income, portfolio income, passive income. Earned income is the money you make from your job. Portfolio income is the money you make from investments like your stock market investments. And passive income is the money you make from things like your real estate property investments, your rental cash flow. Well, there's not much you can do on the earned income side. You have the highest tax rates and the lowest tax write-offs. But when it comes to your portfolio and your passive income, now there are other things that you can do in order to lower your tax liability. Now, I should mention that when it comes to your earned income, if it's your own business, then yes, there are things that you can do. But when you are investing your money into places like real estate, now this opens up a lot of opportunity, but you need a good advisor that can help you with that. And this is where, again, understanding that the tax code is a rule book. And some people who understand the rule book will be able to pay less money in taxes legally, while others who don't understand it are not going to be able to get those benefits, which is why you need a good advisor on your side. So we talked about the legal side. We talked about the financial side. But what about the estate planning side? Because as you're building your wealth, you also want to think about what happens if and when you die, because I know nobody likes to think about death, but everybody's going to die. And when you die, if you have wealth and you don't decide how to distribute it, well, then that's going to create a lot of fights after you die. And the last thing you want is to have people fighting over your money. And the other last thing that you want is you don't want the government to decide where your money goes, which is why when you're alive, you want to think about what do you want to do with your assets after you pass. This could mean working with an estate planning attorney. This is what they do to potentially create a will, to potentially create a trust. There's a lot of different types of estate planning documents that you can potentially create. And what's right for you is going to depend on your goals and what type of wealth that you have and how you want to pass it on, which is why, again, a good team member, a good estate planning attorney is crucial to help you decide how to pass on your assets because you want to build these things while you're alive. Because if you don't, well, then the government's going to try to decide where your money goes and your family's going to be fighting over where your money goes. So make that decision earlier, and you can always amend this. Every time you have a major life change, maybe you have a kid, maybe you get married, maybe you buy a home. This is when now you're going to go back with your estate planning attorney, meet with them, and discuss the changes in your wealth and what you're doing. That way they can amend your estate planning documents and continue to make sure they take care of you. I am a member of the Sikh religion, S-I-K-H, and one of the tenets of the Sikh religion is a concept called seva, which means community service or selfless service. It means giving back. And now the question is, if you have more, how can you do more? And this doesn't just necessarily mean giving money to people, which yes, you could do that. But this could mean also spending your time in a way that helps others. How can you give back to others? Because sometimes, especially when it comes to the financial side of things, sometimes people just need a little push or encouragement or education on how they can change their financial situation. And now that you're building your wealth journey, now that you've learned so much about financial education, you can help provide that, not just financially, but also with your time and your education to help guide others and help others build their wealth themselves. Because the reality is, you building your wealth doesn't stop somebody else from building their wealth. And when you start to understand this, now as you build your wealth, it's very fulfilling to help other people do it as well. So as you're thinking about your wealth and how you want to protect it on the legal side, on the financial side, on the estate planning side, I also want you to think about how you can help others as well. That way you can help other people achieve their wealth too. What I'd like you to do now is, number one, start thinking about what legal protection do you have or do you potentially need? Do you have a business? Are you investing in real estate? If so, do you have any legal protection? If not, do you have a good attorney? If not, how can you find them? Go out and start researching attorneys, start talking to attorneys. Many attorneys will give you a free 1-hour consultation. Just start talking to them, start learning, and find a good team member who can help protect you legally, and have them go through your current financial situation, have them go through your investments, have them go through your business. That way they can come up with the best legal plan to protect you. Second is a financial assessment. If you're investing in real estate, if you have a business, if you're doing other types of things such as this, then I need you to go out and start talking to tax advisors, especially if you're making over $150,000 a year. Go out and start talking to a tax advisor about different things that you can do to protect yourself from taxes legally. Third, I want you to think about your estate plan. If you have any sort of wealth built, what do you want to happen to this wealth after you pass? If you don't have any sort of estate planning documents, go on trying to find an estate planning attorney who can help you do that. And finally, I want you to think about, what do you want your legacy to be and how can you give back? Share these items in the community. That way you can hold yourself accountable, and that way you can write it down and let other people know what you're working on right now. And you can also use the workbook to help guide you through these steps as well. And with that, I'll see you in the next lesson.